Hello YouTubers, what we are going to do today, we are going to cut clay using the Silhouette Cameo 4. Now this is a Cameo 4 only project, Cameo or technically Curio. You need something with the extra clearance that the Cameo 4 offers. And we're going to make these paperclip toppers. The Avocado file will be free on the webpage, so you can do this on your own too. It's pretty easy and a lot of fun, and clay is like totally addicting. I'm really hoping y'all like this video so I can have an excuse to do more clay activities and clay crafting, because it's really quite fun. So let me go show you what you need. Alright, so first thing you're going to need is clay. This is Sculpty clay that I got from Hobby Lobby. Now Sculpty is having some of the same problems that other crafty things are with the supply chain. So it's been hit and miss on finding colors, and I ended up at Hobby Lobby and Michael's and Joann's and Amazon to find the colors that I wanted. If you can, Hobby Lobby puts the clay on sale. It goes through part of the cycle, the sales cycle, so you can get it for 30% off, but it is really hit and miss on the colors that you can get. I will leave links down below to Amazon where I got it, but Amazon right now seems to be really expensive for this. So if you can find it in the store, it seems to be a bit cheaper actually in a craft store than on Amazon. But anyway you get it, clay. You need clay. And then for whatever reason I decided I specifically wanted gold paper clips. So I think these are gold, like 2.5 inch paper clips from Office Depot, because once again it was cheaper. I didn't have to buy like 800 of them. I could just buy a couple. So these are from Office Depot because I decided I wanted gold paper clips. Obviously any paper clip will work for this. You don't specifically have to go to Office Depot and get gold ones. Now in order to keep this kind of a more beginner friendly project and not be so overwhelming, I've kind of gone with really basic tools. Now clay has all sorts of things you can buy for it, just like a lot of other projects, but we're trying to keep it a little basic. So I don't have a pasta machine. I've been using this roller. It's actually a Walton roller. It's meant for fondant, but what they have is they have these they have 2 sets of markers, so you can help roll it out to a consistent thickness, which is important, and that's one thing the pasta machine's really good at. But the pasta machines were like 20 and 30 bucks, and when this is a beginner project I didn't want to do that quite off the bat, so, and I didn't want to spend the money on it if nobody watches this video, so we're going with the $6 fondant roller right now. So this one's a 1/16 of an inch and this one's an 1/8 of an inch, so, but it works really well. Basically you need uniform thickness, and this guy will get you there, and it's a little more muscle power than the pasta machine. And then I did end up buying one of these. It's not really necessary, and there's probably other things you can use in your craft stash for it, but what it's used for is for picking up clay so that you're not gouging at it with your fingers. And you can also use it to cut up clay. This isn't terribly sharp, but it just helps, because if not, you're trying to like move it with your fingers and it causes problems. So I did end up buying this. I think it's a whole set from Joann's, but I really do like these. Not necessary, especially if you're just trying to do a couple little things to see if you like it, but definitely nice to have. Now I did buy this. I actually really do like. It's the Sculpty oven bake adhesive. So these guys, it's 2 pieces of the dark green, and so that way it's covered in the back. And with this adhesive, they're in here pretty good. Like eventually, I'm sure at some point if you diligently sit here and pull for like ever, it will come off, but they're actually on there pretty good. If you don't use the adhesive, they're not on there as well. So I really do actually like this adhesive a lot, so keep that in mind for whatever you want to do. Not 100% necessary. They will stick if you don't use it, but I really do like it for in between the paper clips. And then I glazed these, so see how shiny this little one is, and see how not shiny he is. So this one didn't get glazed, I just made him. So this is the glaze that I used for it. However, I found out apparently you can use polyacrylic too. So the polyacrylic that is around for the glitter Christmas ornaments and things like that, you can apparently use it on the clay as well. So it's up to you if you want to glaze them. They also have, this is the high gloss. They also have a satin too, if you don't want quite as much shine. And then I drew in this face with a Sharpie. All right, so you're gonna need a mat. This was a high-tack mat at one point, one of the knockoff mats, but obviously it's lost its tack over time. So, but the big thing is it needs to be specifically for clay. You're not gonna wanna put HTV on this mat after you've done this. And this is another side note, always keep your old mats. You never know when you might just need a mat that you're not really attached to. So I always keep my mats, but all the smuts from the clay get stuck on here and you're not going to want this on your project. So a mat dedicated to clay, and then I'm recommending using the good old ratchet blade, and this probably needs to be dedicated to clay as well. There's a cap, this little tiny cap, and you're gonna unscrew it so we just have the blade attached, and that's how it'll run through the machine. But it's another case of smuts, and you're probably not gonna wanna try to cut HTV with this. This is also really good for an old blade that doesn't really wanna cut as well anymore. It's good for this because the clay doesn't need a really sharp blade, obviously. So like an older blade, good project for this. But do label it to make sure that it's just for clay. We're also going to need a handy dandy adapter since we are using a Cameo 4. Alright, so we are over on my glass coffee table. To roll out the clay, you need to either be on glass or ceramic tile, because the clay will want to stick to just about everything else, and then that kind of defeats the purpose. The camera is having a little bit of trouble because it's trying to focus on too many things, so we'll try to make this quick, but I'll put the specific numbers to the clay down in the description. But basically you need a dark green and a light green, and then you're gonna have two options with this one, either the heart for the center or the little brown spot for the center. So some kind of either pink. I've used this fuchsia, and then I've also used this lighter pink. Any of this will work. What you're gonna wanna do first is, it's called conditioning the clay. And what it means is basically getting it to a point where you've warmed it up and played with it to the point that you can actually start to roll it. The Sculpt E3 seems to be easier. I haven't played with the clay in a while, and this one's still fairly malleable. That Primo seems to want to get a little bit harder quicker. So, but anyway, just condition it to the point where you can roll it. When you pull one right off of the, when you grab a new section right out of the bag, it's really tough, and you're just gonna need to sit here and work it with your hands until you get it to a point where you can roll it. All right, so it doesn't really need to be in any specific shape. You just need it kind of malleable enough you can roll it. So, and I like to start on the purple guide. It's the taller of the two. Nothing really scientific. You're just gonna roll it and become some kind of blob type shape. Alright, and when you get it to kind of a uniform thickness, you can take these guys off, the two purple ones, and use these two pink ones for your depth guide. You will need to get it to this kind of thickness, because if it's too fat, it won't fit through the machine. Also keep in mind that you're going to need to cut two pieces out of this green, so you're going to need more of this green than you will any of the other colors for the avocado. And that's basically what we're kind of going for. A blob type shape. Then you can put your blob shape onto your mat. And what I like to do, I ended up with this from one of the kits I bought. You don't need to use any, you don't have to use this by any means. You can just use just about anything. But I like to cut along my grid line. That way it helps line it up in the software, and you also can't have your clay here because your machine needs to roll. You know, the mat has to feed through the machine, so you need to keep this clean. But that way it makes it easier to line up in the software, so you can see where our clay is, and then we'll be able to line it up on the grid in the computer. So I'm going to do the same thing with my light green and my fuchsia for my heart. Alrighty, so I have this is my dark green, and then this is my light green, and this is my pink. Now, something to keep in mind when you have to put it on the mat, I like to put it in the corners because it's easier to line up in the software than trying to put it like in the middle and trying to get it lined up. Also, you have those two little rollers that are movable. You need to leave room for them to be somewhere. So I like to leave them in the middle and then use the corners. But anything will work. Just keep in mind, you have to line it up in the software and you need to leave room for the rollers. Alright, so we're in Silhouette Studio, and I did File and Merge, and I brought in our little avocados. These are free on the webpage. I'll leave a link down below in the description for them, but you can make whatever it is you want to make. These are free. So we're going to make the little heart one today, and I've been making them about 1.5 inches tall. And since this isn't scientific, I just kind of shrunk them down and use this as my sizing guide. You can come over here to the transform panel and use a scale tool if you want something really specific, but that's about it. So now come back up here to the page setup, and where it says transparency, we're going to take it all the way down so we can see the grid. And right click and ungroup. So we're going to put our little pink heart over here. I always like to do 2 of these. They're little with a couple turns, and sometimes they mess up in the machine. So I like to do 2. I like to do extra of these, of the little hearts. Now we just need 1 of our green inside parts. And then for our outside part, copy and paste, because we need 1 for the front of the paper clip and 1 for the back of the paper clip. Now we have enough clay on the tray to actually make 2 sets of paper clips. And since I have the clay, we will just do, instead of just 1 paper clip, we'll do 2 paper clips. We could actually do more, but we'll do 2. The other nice thing about this is if you mess up, you can just roll it out again. You haven't really wasted anything, which is really nice about these. So there we go. That is enough to make 2 paper clips. So we're going to hit send. And we have all this lit up. Now it's telling me this partly because there's no tool in my Carriage 1 right now. So when I put in my, well, you can put in your ratchet blade and it'll pop up, or I can select this and select cut, and it'll give me cut settings. And obviously we're going to cut with the ratchet blade, and we've got our cut lines on. I've been doing a force of 5 and a speed of 1. And then I've got my blade currently set at 7, which seems to be doing pretty good. All right, so your ratchet blade it comes standard with this tip on it, this cap. And all you're going to do is you're just going to unscrew it, because if not, this cap is just going to leave an indentation on all of your clay. So take it off, and because we're in the Cameo 4, put it into the adapter. Now, when this is going to tap, even like it's an auto blade, even though it's not, and it's going to leave some drag marks in the clay. That's okay, but just know that it'll do that. The worst that'll happen is you'll have to recut some of your pieces. These are the 2 little movable rolly things. I'm sure they have a name, but you're going to want to make sure that they don't roll over any of your clay. because you don't need it to. And then you're going to want to make sure that your rollers are free of any clay. And we're going to hit send. Now, if it's your first time doing these, you're going to want to pull up your clay and make sure that it cut all the way through. You can resend it through if it did not. So in the effort to be completely honest here, it did pull up this little heart, and I've had it happen before where I'll pull it up and get stuck to the roller. So just keep that in mind. It's part of it is that it's small and it's wanting to pick it up, and part of it is this clay is kind of dry. It seems to do better with the clay this clay that's a little bit wetter rather than the drier clay. But the worst thing that happens is if it totally messes it up, totally just pick it back up, roll it back out, and send it through again. And this is what I was talking about. You can see, I don't know if you can see, there's drag marks from the blade, but it's never gotten on my design. But if it does, once again, keep that in mind, roll it up, roll it back up, and you can redo it. Now this green was a little bit thicker, so, and then this you can reuse. So there's no waste with this. And this little one right here, I don't know if you can tell, but it's a little bit thicker, and that's why it didn't cut all the way out. But you can just kind of be gentle and pick it. And then we'll put that on the back of one. And that way we still aren't, we aren't really losing anything. Hopefully, we'll at least get 2 hearts out of here that are okay. Alright, so these guys, when they get really stuck down, you can use this to kind of help pop them up off the mat. This is really nice when they're really like stuck when they first come out. You can use this to get them off the mat. But it's not necessary. You can totally use your fingers too. It just makes moving these guys a lot easier. And what I like to do is assemble them in the pan that I'm going to bake it in. So what we're using is, this is actually the tray for my convection oven. I have a convection oven for the sublimation tumblers, and just to make my life easier, we're going to bake in it. You can totally bake this in your standard home oven. Sculpey says it's 100% safe. I did that with my first ones before I got my little oven here. So you do not need a convection oven. It's just down here in my basement, and so we're just going to use it. But I like to assemble them on either the tray that I'm going to bake it in, or you can bake them on ceramic tile as well. So, all right. So we have him, and then we're going to use the Sculpey. This is the adhesive I was telling you about earlier, and you're just going to squish it on. It dries clear, so don't worry if a little bit squishes out. So you're going to want this part of your paper clip on the bottom, and just kind of, I use it to squish it around a little bit, and make sure the top is out. And then we'll use our other green piece and put it on top. I use my fingers. I'm not very good at just not. So we do that. And then our center green piece, light green piece. You don't need any adhesive for it. They'll bake together on its own. And then a little bitty heart. And there you go. Alrighty, so those are 2 paper clips. You could make as many as you wanted to. We just made 2. I've got my little oven set to 275 degrees, and we're going to cook these for 15 minutes. Alright, so our 2 little paper clips are in there. I have a thermometer in there. It's from the sublimation. It's not really necessary with these guys because it's not like the temperature matters as much as it does for sublimation. I just have it in there because of the cups. But $2.75 for 15 minutes has worked fine for me, so we will see them when they're done. Alrighty, so I've popped these guys out of my little oven here, and then that's pretty much all there is to it. If they do stick, you can pick them up by the paper clip and they'll pop right out. Alright, so from here you have a couple options. You can sand these to help get a more finished looking edge. I never have because, quite frankly, it's a lot of work and these are just meant to be fun. So, but if you wanted to sell this or something like that, you probably would want to look into sanding kind of the edge to make it look a little more finished. You can put on the finish if you want to. I just painted this on with a paintbrush and it gives it that glossy finish if you want to do a really glossy avocado. They do have a satin one as well. You can also use the polyacrylic. I have learned since buying this. Polyacrylic, if you wanted to do a lot, the polyacrylic would definitely be a lot cheaper than this little bottle was. And then I just used a Sharpie to draw in the eyeballs. I will say one thing about the design I wanted to point out. So these are my little avocados here. The avocado, I didn't realize when I kind of designed it, is a great shape because it's kind of a bit of a blob. And the circle was too. If you look at my little doxy here, and you can see some of the marks from the blade, but like the pointed tail didn't make it, and some of the little detail on the feet didn't, because it was a little too much of a rigid shape. The star did okay. I think part of the reason the star did okay is because it was big. But you can even see over here where some of the point didn't make it. So I would kind of go blobby-ish if you want to design your own shape. This was a J I did. So I would suggest no real like tight corners, more of a blobby shape or kind of not as much of a rigid pointy shape. Seems to do better with the clay and the machines. So circles, blobby kind of shapes. So I hope y'all really like this. Clay is kind of addictive and I really enjoyed kind of playing with this and looking at all the clay projects that are out there. Any of the clay techniques that are out there, marbling, translucent clays, all of that, you can do that with the machine and get the machine to cut them instead of having to buy 800 different little cutters. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'll do my best to answer them, and we'll be back with another tutorial soon.